Belgium and the Czech Republic going to fight it out for slot number 14 in that top 16. We'll find the other two later today. And a bit of a change of pace here now. We have less memes, more analysis. I don't know, more memes, less analysis. Something like that. We have Gallon anyway, this guy over here who you may have seen before. Good morning, Gallon. It's like 3 a.m. or something stupid over there, isn't it?
It is not 3 a.m. It is, checking at the time, it is 9:13 a.m. So thankfully it is not incredibly early. But yeah, it's still a bit early. I had to wake up maybe an hour. I'm still excited to cast some games of Hearthstone. We have Jarla and Faeli versus Oliek and Maverick. Four fantastic players in their own right. But in a Priest versus Warrior matchup, and I think that this is a little bit favored for Warrior. Priest is a very powerful deck, but Warrior is one of the few classes that actually beats it, along with Shaman, I would say. So it's going to be a little bit of an uphill battle for Priest in this matchup.
And there's one of the cards that the Priest really needs to get it done. Not just the Northside Cleric, which we say every time, but the Amet on early game can be a game changer.
It's an uphill battle, but when you have a hand of Northshire Cleric, Injured Tolvier, Circle of Healing, and High Priest Amet, and a second Northshire Cleric, never mind. Okay, it might be an uphill battle for the Warrior in this one.
Warrior does have double Brawl and Plague of Wrath, though, so although the Priest has this amazing start and is definitely favoured to get it done, it can go wrong in a hurry if they don't get it done early.
I would agree with you, but the power level of Northshire Cleric, heal into Circle of Healing next turn, lets you draw 4 cards, make a huge board that the Warrior still can't answer. Turn 3 is not really a turn that Warrior has anything going on. It does have a Restless Mummy, but again, you have to draw that for that to be impactful. Coin Brawl can't come down until at least turn 4, so I think Priest is looking in a really good position this game so far.
Yeah, they should nerf Tolvier and have it only do 2 damage to itself instead of 3. Because then it would be worse.
I'm not sure about that one.
Oh, you were one of the guys who thought they shouldn't nerf Dr. Boom to 6/7, right? Originally.
That was an interesting debate. That was a long ago meta when Big Game Hunter was a tech card that everyone ran. At 3 mana, Big Game Hunter was probably the most powerful tech card of all time.
Yeah.
Even now, it still sees some
play. I mean, you know how powerful a card is by how hard the nerf is. 3 mana to 5 mana is, and the card still sees occasional play.
I have to say, you know the game is going well as a Priest if you're neglecting to cast a Circle of Healing to draw 2 cards. It can just be better later.
Draw a billion cards.
Yeah.
The game is going well for Yarla when he's playing faster than his opponents.
That's quite true.
But it's important, actually. I always rib Yarla slightly for being a slow player, but Belgium have been playing very slow and methodical too, so quite important there that Yarla's happy to pass it back quickly when situation dictates. Put that time pressure on Belgium, who also enjoy using their time.
One of the good things about the start for the Czech Republic is the fact that I think it's a pretty easy Priest hand to play out. Everything so far has been fairly obvious based on the draws that we've had, and games like that are really good versus specifically Warrior. When you know exactly how to play out your hand and it's a powerful hand, those are generally the games that you win versus Warrior. A lot of the hardest games versus Warrior are the ones where the prolonged battles back and forth and you have to make so many decisions and all of them are ugly. So the fact that this is the hand for Czech Republic is really good for them.
Yeah, when to use your Bronzami when you know you're probably not winning anyway. When to lob out the Psychopomp on a 1 in 4 chance to get back the right card. All that sort of decision making can become tedious and you tend to lose them even if you get it right. But this one, a little bit different. So removing the clear and obvious danger, but a lot of the damage has already been done. It will get interesting with the second one.
Yep.
They're alive.
From Belgium's side, seeing Double Brawl is probably the strongest thing that they could have to contest this opener in the Czech Republic. Double Brawl is really impactful. A lot of times against Warrior, Priest will try to force out the first Brawl, and then more often than not, the second Brawl won't be there. So from the Czech Republic side, they did a very good job of that. They had a full health injured Blade Master, full health injured Tolvier, and 2 Northshire Clerics in play, which clearly is a brawlable board, but they aren't really giving up that much to enable that.
Yeah, and this is why the Amet, because of cast division, looks less good, but in terms of where you're sat as the Czech Republic, it's what you wanted to do all along, so you do it. One argument against that is Psychopomp's pretty good right now. You'll get a Cleric back a lot of the time, but you don't mind an Amet going into that pool anyway.
One of the things about Psychopomping next turn is that you are pretty likely to get a Cleric. If the fail scenario is an injured Blade Master, you're pretty happy with the Psychopomp right now.
Yeah.
But by saving it for next turn, they get to do something such as Psychopomp, Wild Pyromancer, Silence, and Circle of Healing on the same turn to guarantee that 4-card extra swing. If they play the Psychopomp now, they have to wait an extra turn to activate the Wild Pyromancer.
You do feel as well that 4 extra cards could just be lethal right now. You see the high health minions, Divine Spirit in hand. That's always very close to the end of the game.
Belgium has actually done a pretty good job of checking the pressure from the Czech Republic. They're saving the brawls. They're using Shield Slam on the targets they want. Shield Slamming an Amit is clearly the most impactful card in the matchup.
Yeah, I mean, Maverick is... I don't know much about Oliek's favours, but Maverick is just a warrior expert, basically.
Yeah, most of the French community is actually very strong at warrior. You have Swids, you have Odemian, you have Maverick, and Oliek are both strong warrior players. But one of the things that I remember about the French community is last year they had come up with the Dead Man's Hand warrior at this tournament in Canada, where I think maybe 4 out of the 6 French players ended up making it into the top 8 with that Dead Man's Hand warrior out of 250 players. So they definitely understand the ins and outs of the deck. They can come up with innovative strategies in Control Warrior.
Yeah, if memory serves, I think Maverick actually won tour with DreamHack Tour with Dead Man's Warrior. It may be the other warrior, but it was definitely a slow controlling warrior. I remember that much.
Odemian actually ended up winning that tournament. I believe it was EGLX in Toronto in 2018. Okay. Against Hunter Ace.
Odemian beat Hunter Ace in that final, because that was Hunter Ace's second final. And the questions were, is he going to ever win one? Odemian had a fantastic year, actually. I know this is Belgium, not France. We understand, but the French-speaking community overlaps strongly. But Odemian, had he not got married halfway through 2018 and decided to have a life and things like that, he was having a very strong year to that point.
That is true. Oliek and Maverick are currently representing Belgium, but they are part of Solary, and that is generally a highly French organization.
Yeah, I mean, the French borrow him when it suits them and forget him when it suits them. If he wins, he's French. He won DreamHack Tour. In France, he was French. And it's the ongoing, not inside joke, but sort of rib that he has to put up with through his life.
It's actually pretty interesting because Jarla is currently playing for the Czech Republic, but the team that he's on is Nordavind, which is a highly Norwegian team. So we have a little bit of dual loyalty here for both of these players.
Jarla was displaying the Season 1 HDG trophy throughout Grandmasters last year. If you wonder what that cup was that you could see during Season 1. Former champions Czech Republic. Current champions China coming into the fray later today as well. Alright, decision time. You might be dead from any turn on, so letting things live is not ideal. But neither is using up your plague.
I'm fairly certain that there is another Restless Mummy that can come off of this town crier. Let me double check. They do not have a militia commander like we've been seeing the Czech Republic include in their warrior list. The only problem is that if you want to clear up all the small minions, you leave a giant 4/7 in play, which could easily kill you with a Divine Spirit, Inner Fire kind of combo.
Yeah, they've drawn a lot of cards. Okay, there's still 14 left in their deck, but you know it's getting close to at least one Divine Spirit in a fire, which is enough damage to almost kill you, and then things just get scary.
Precision. Perfection.
Silence in hand, so an inner fire would put a lot of damage into the face if they wanted it.
The weapon itself.
The weapon anyway.
Yeah. Second Divine Spear picked up. As soon as they draw a inner fire here, Czech Republic is going to be in a fantastic spot.
Yeah, especially now they've pulled up the double beaming sidekick. Just to make everything cheaper to do, more options available.
Belgium still has a Warpath Plague of Wrath here, but after that, they're pretty much out of board clears. The Psychopomp plus Beaming Sidekicks next turn is going to be pretty much unchecked.
Yeah, that's going to be incredibly hard to deal with.
Yarla and Faeli are weighing whether silence. Yeah, that you could silence right now to gain an extra 3 damage, but I imagine they're interested in saving that silence for a Card 2 defender, like you're saying.
I wonder if they're... Yeah, so the discussion was probably actually, how do we get this Light Warden down? Do we get it down? Because next turn they can make Light Warden gigantic if they want.
It's pretty cute that they played it first just to get an extra 2 attack on it. Ziliax has lifesteal, so it actually activates the Light Warden. It's something to keep in mind because a lot of times when you're fighting through a Card 2 defender, for example, as a combo priest, you can actually manage to create these weird lethal setups because even though they heal 3, you actually get an extra 2 damage every single time that a Card 2 defender dies.
Yeah. Yeah, we can see this board can be taken care of, but look how awkward it is to get rid of. 2 big things, a Light Warden that is going to kill you because of the Pyromancer and the hand you have. And yeah, just forcing Belgium there to last resort. If they hadn't had that, that was just the end of the game. And they've managed to keep themselves a hand that can still just do it all again this turn. They might need a little bit of luck with the Psycho Pump, but not too much. They've got a lot of good stuff already died.
The end begins.
It's pretty huge. Get an extra card off of this. Gets you one closer to an inner fire. Gotta imagine they're interested.
Up, see where you are.
Yep. Heal it up with your hero power.
Oh, they're wondering whether to play Light Warden first, I guess.
I imagine that they're pretty interested in playing a Beaming Sidekick this turn instead. Health matters more than attack right now. Mm-hmm. Beaming Sidekick adds 4 health to the board instead of 2.
Not too quickly.
That's why they're going through the mechanics of this. Just a reminder, as we haven't covered it in the broadcast yet today, this is Hearthstone Global Games. It is a team tournament. Both teams have 2 players. Sometimes they're in the same room, which the Czech Republic have taken the time and effort to do, and sometimes they're communicating with each other via their chosen communication device of choice.
Pretty interesting decision by them to forego a draw to just add more pressure to the board. They've seen a lot of board clears, so again, the most important thing here is to add stuff to the board. I can definitely respect denying themselves a card draw to just play for tempo here. And yeah, Belgium is out of stuff.
Let the pain speak.
They're out of stuff.
40 damage here from the Czech Republic. They're going to go up 1-0 in the series.
40 damage from 1 card.
Well, 40 damage from...
It's funny how
5 cards.
But yeah, forgotten how ridiculous this deck was because of Shaman. There you go, 40 to the face.
Czech Republic decided at the very end there card draw for tempo, and it pays out immediately. They had seen already so many AoE removal spells in the form of Brawl, in the form of Warpath, Plague of Wrath. At the very end, Belgium just did not have that final AoE to deal with the overwhelming presence from the Czech Republic. They're going to be up 1-0 in this series, getting a pretty much needed win here against the Warrior as Priest. They still have Warrior and Rogue left, which will lead to a couple interesting games, I think. Rogue versus Warrior especially, which I think will be the next match that we have in store for you guys. But yeah, pretty commanding victory for the Czech Republic here.
Yeah, it was not that unexpected, obviously, but the way they did it was quite hard. They had to make sure not to overcommit at any one point. Some fairly subtle points with the Light Wardens. And you're right, we're going to go into Rogue versus Warrior, which I know is one of your more enjoyed matches for you.
One of the things about this matchup is that it often goes long, and that means people have lots of decisions. Rogue is a deck that you will have lots and lots of decisions every single turn. Warrior is a deck that will give you lots of turns to play the game, so lots of decisions and lots of turns means very interesting matchup.
Yeah, and the throwing in there of quite a lot of random cards for the Rogue in particular adds more flavour to that matchup too, so it's not just straight formulaic every time. The chat realised how hard it was to record this and have the chat be answered at exactly the right times. I don't think they get it.
We had to just predict every single one of their questions.
Yeah. Czech Republic team, of course, is Yala and Faili. And let's move on to the game before I do that for the whole game.
One thing to notice is they just kept a pretty tempo-based hand, kept Blink Fox and Underbelly Fence. I think that makes a lot of sense versus Warrior. You're not really trying to kill them with that kind of hand. What you're trying to do is play for tempo while conserving resources. Blink Fox is really good at that in this matchup. Underbelly Fence as well is something that answers the Warrior's threats pretty effectively. Doesn't die to a single hit of the Restless Mummy, which is often a card that the Warrior wants in this matchup.
And I really like this Czech Republic build as well. We should mention that it's double questing adventurer and a shark. It's just that extra little bit of value / beef that sometimes the Rogue feels like it's missing.
Questing Adventure definitely has applications in this specific matchup. If you get it down early and buff it up, it can be pretty awkward for the Warrior to answer without using removal. It's especially good in the Druid matchup. Questing Adventure is a card that gets answered by Wrath, and that's about it. If a Questing Adventure is not Wrath early on, you can just run away with the game.
I mean, we're forgetting the deck exists as well because we've seen it once so far this weekend, but Questing Adventure is actually very good against Quest Shaman too. They just can't deal with it if you get it down early. You want your cheap, cheating, evolved 7-drop. Well, I'm just going to play Questing Adventure and make my own 3-drop that is also gigantic. And now the game begins.
We saw the Czech Republic be in this similar spot earlier this tournament. They elected to go Blink Fox instead of a Spirit of the Shark. They foregoed value for tempo. But I still like a Spirit of the Shark here. I think with a Swashbuckler and a Blink Fox in hand, you get so many additional random value cards that missing 3 damage for an extra two warrior cards is actually quite impactful.
Cool Taskmaster's super interesting here to me. Obviously, they're now sort of forced into at least having a couple of turns of tempo attempts. Those saps are basically dead. They won't be played until Kartuts or Nazoths much later in the game. I mean, never say never, but basically.
I wouldn't call them dead. I call them very much alive. Even though you might not be playing it this specific turn, the fact that he has double sap, I think, is really going to benefit the Czech Republic here.
Oh, you definitely want them, but in terms of your early game development, there's something you don't want for several turns, most likely.
If you had to choose whether they were in hand or in deck right now, I would vastly prefer they were in hand. Let's put it that way.
Interesting. I think I'd rather just have one in hand for now.
That's fair.
Trust my deck to get me the other.
That's fair.
The compromise.
Belgium will be setting up for a Harrison Jones this turn by playing a weapons project. It's a pretty good game plan.
Yeah, nice for the Warrior when they get this sort of time, in part because look at that armor building up. If you get the chance to just keep armoring up as Warrior, it can make a huge difference later on. Quite often this comes down to, can you get a silly, sharp, kobold lackey type finish? And that gets ruled out, and you have to go more down the tempo route if the Warrior gets too high on health.
The tempo route is the route that they'll probably have to take for quite a while here. Bunch of decisions to be made this turn. They're all pretty marginal, but have lasting implications. Cool Taskmaster can't really be played this turn, just due to the fact that it enables so much from Belgium's side. I imagine they're pretty interested in playing a underbelly fence here, but a Cruel Taskmaster on either the fence or the Blink Box allows the weapon hit to kill the Blink Box, or it allows a Restless Mummy to kill the underbelly fence.
On the other side of that, though, how often are you going to get 10 damage out of a Blink Box and a Cool Taskmaster? Yeah, it can be taken care of with a weapon hit, but it's 5 more.
Definitely something to consider.
Deals with the armor problem I was talking about. Just is the Cool Taskmaster ever going to do better than 4 damage to face like it's done now?
That belongs in a museum.
They do manage to save the Swashbuckler for the Spirit of the Shark. They get to go Spirit of the Shark, coin, Swashbuckler.
Yeah, looks like that was another part of what they did last turn. Something you were explaining very clearly yesterday. Sort of go through your cards, see which ones you can play, and play them. Obviously a lot more complicated than that, but kind of a good rule of thumb. The downside of the Spirit of the Shark play, it will rule out double Togwaggle. Doesn't mean they won't do it, doesn't mean they shouldn't do it, but...
This is quite a hard turn, actually. Leading with a Swashbuckler instead might honestly be better than a Spirit of the Shark.
It is their only Spirit of the Shark, which makes it more difficult than maybe normal. We did see from them yesterday that they didn't seem to care too much about the Shark. Obviously they want to get huge value from it, but they didn't want to... They didn't want to hamstring themselves just by worrying about only the Spirit of the Shark.
A bunch of nothing, honestly. Devastate is quite a good removal tool. Shield block gets the cycle. I do like the Shadow Step by the Czech Republic. Something that I briefly mentioned yesterday, where you can Shadow Step the Spirit of the Shark and just save it for later. Normally, people try to Shadow Step a minion that has a battle cry instead of the Spirit of the Shark itself, but this is often a cute little play that you can do to protect the Shark.
Yeah, especially with Togwaggle in your deck, you do. The instinct is to want to bounce the Togwaggle, but if you bounce the Shark, you get 2 Togwaggles later anyway. Or 2 treasures, which is what you actually want. Togwaggles are nice and all.
These Snip Snaps are a massive pain to deal with. From Fiale's side, there's no clean way of answering a Snip Snap right now. Really, the only thing that he can do is just try to fight for board as best as possible.
So many options.
But even that seems a little bit tricky.
It doesn't seem pleasant, does it? So, Blink Fox to the rescue, maybe. Not really.
It's pretty funny, though. Bloodsworn Mercenary works with Spirit of the Shark. So, for example, if they get a damaged minion, they get to summon 2 copies of the damaged minion. Maybe there's a world where they get an Inner Rage, for example, on their Leroy, and they get to go something like Spirit of the Shark, Leroy, Inner Rage, Bloodsworn Mercenary to summon 3 8-attack Leroys. It's a long shot, but, sometimes it happens.
Gallant with all the nightmares of people who play Warrior everywhere. Summoning 3 Leroys. But yeah, those sort of tricks, like you were discussing as well yesterday, very important to know that they exist with the cards you don't get to play very often.
There's all these corner case scenarios where if you get a 2 or 3 card combo from different classes, you can do some really interesting stuff. For example, Leroy Wagglepick setups with a timeout from a Paladin come up more often than you would expect.
Yes.
If I try to list every single one of them, I'd be listing literally thousands of them, so it just gets really confusing.
The board has gone here, back into the game. As you were saying last turn, it's going to be awkward getting this back.
The issue is getting compounded.
Yes. If only those saps weren't in hand. But no, I joke. Obviously, the saps were things you would have chosen to have more times than not because you're expecting card toots and stuff. You're not expecting to lose board in this manner as rogue. But one of the things is stealing cards against warrior is quite often not very good. There's a lot of very mediocre cards you can get from warriors. Just get a Shudder Walk and you're good. Shame it doesn't discover from other classes. Blessing of Kings is my gut instinct here.
Snipe seems a little bit too unimpactful.
Choose silly.
The Czech Republic
Yeah, you're not
under
going to
a lot of pressure right now. They still have a lot of time, even though the board state isn't really favoring them. They will probably be able to activate this Iceberg Hogwaddle at some point if they manage to pick up a Evil Cable Rat or Evil Miscreant. So in that sense, I don't think they're too worried. The problem is that it's not about not dying to win the game. You actually have to kill your opponent. You can't just
There's a new
stay
twist
alive.
in chat on a normal question. Yes, this is pre-recorded, but I think the question was saying that these two teams did indeed play yesterday, and the Czech Republic won 3-1. But the way the group has worked means they're playing again today for a slot in the top 16.
They are currently
So in
playing,
this instance, different question.
they're currently playing in the group stage right now. You have to win 2 to advance out of 4 teams. You can lose 1 and still continue. Both of these teams have lost 1. The Czech Republic won their initial match and Belgium lost their initial match, but they've both found a way to get to this final game for the group.
And Romania just tore through everybody else.
Yeah, with some pretty impressive performances as well.
Yeah, very
Hannibals
solid.
and RDU both played fantastically, I have to say.
Beating for no me's the highlight of this week. Mexico beating everything in sight was the highlight of last week.
Not great options.
Yeah, I was looking at this web guard, long and hard. Just forget about the battle cry. It's 3-11. It's like playing priest without any threats.
Unfortunately, it's also not a dragon that you can copy with War Master Voon.
I mean, you've got a Blessing of Kings to stick on it. That makes it a formidable foe.
And a Bloodsworn Mercenary as well, so if this stays alive, you could have a really
What now?
really big threat on your hands. We are approaching a spot in the game where I think the normal treasures might not work in the favor of the Czech Republic. Wondrous Wand might not get enough, and Zarek's Crown is too unimpactful, I would say. It might be a
So
world
where do you go from there?
Well, it might be a world where either A, you try to get a... I'm not even sure the name of the card. Toland's Goblet. You could try to go for a Toland's Goblet into something very impactful, like an Evil Miscreant. Or you make it really spicy and you go for the Golden Kobold and try to hope that 7 or 8 legendaries gets there in the end.
Yeah, people definitely package what to take a little bit too much rather than just saying, you know what, got to mix it up. I don't think they're quite at that point yet, personally, just because the double sap in hand is something you really don't want to get rid of.
Mm-hmm.
You're right, maybe they will just draw many cards. I'm all for sticking this Blessing of Kings on this 3-11 and just whacking face with it, by the way.
Oh yeah, this is a tempo-based turn. Grand Mummy, Blessing of Kings, Hero Power, all face. They could also be looking at a shield block as well. At some point, they're going to have to cycle it, but I do like the pure tempo line.
Yeah, it serves the double purpose of emptying out your hand, give yourself more Togwaggle options, getting some damage in there. Excuse me. Which they're finding very hard to do. And also, it might just stick. It probably won't, but... You
Oleg
don't need
has
a 7-15 on the board for long.
They have a pretty darn clean way of answering this worm guard. Shield block, hero power deals exactly 15 damage with the shield slam.
Yeah.
Can't imagine a world where they don't elect to take that. That is just so clean.
Yeah, anytime you get something really nice out of your shield slam, it's good. But killing a 7-15 with it is taking that to a new level, I think.
Normally, I'm happy when I kill like a 4/4.
Exactly. I think you're playing the Hecklebot first? No,
This would be
surely
a good
not.
time for a master plan.
Face me, you tilted tyrant.
Trying to hit Togwaggle, you would assume there.
There's actually a lot of good outcomes for the 2-attack weapon. A questing adventurer could just easily be picked off.
Oh, yeah,
Remember that the Hecklebot has... Oh. And your decision to save the weapon there, can definitely appreciate it. Alright. Czech Republic,
36 health is so relevant as well.
they are going to need something wacky to win this game. Shield Block and War Master Voon are not it. What that leads me to believe is that this treasure that they're going to discover off of a High Spear and Togwaggle is not going to be a normal treasure.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing something a bit different happening there. Health totals just got out of hand. To the point where your saps become less useful because you usually use those to push through lots of damage, but in the stupid world where they play a Cartoot and you sap it, you don't gain as much as you would normally with those 2 extra attacks. See what they pick. Who were Tolin and Zarog anyway? Do we know?
I have no idea.
Sort of think
I have
Raven would
absolutely
know.
no idea.
So we'll ask Sottle next.
Mechathoon is the biggest minion. And they cannot go all face.
So next turn, just play Myro's Unstable, and then kill all your own minions, kill off the Mechathoons, and you win the game.
And hope Belgium has no plays this turn.
I don't
Seems a
think
bit
there's Myro's
unlikely.
in the deck either, but I don't mind facts getting in the way of memes. They're pretty beefy though. We have seen that Colossus of the Moon, it can be incredibly good. Not quite. Cthulhu's not quite as good as that, but 10/10s are aggravating. But double brawl in a situation where you can afford to take 10 as well.
I imagine they're more interested in going for a plate rat here based on these attacks.
Yeah. Seems reasonable.
Makes sense. Guarantees that no 10 attack won't live. I think they can definitely afford to take 10, but they also probably win if they don't. You know what I mean? They always win if they don't.
Yeah. I still like this rogue deck, even though it didn't get anywhere because of those snip snaps in this game. I just like the added beef that makes it so much easier to play. Doesn't necessarily mean it's better, but it gives you some nice, straightforward plays at times. They will go for Wind Fury here. They need to. They haven't got much damage available.
It's definitely true. The snip snaps were so impactful in the mid-game. They pretty much dealt with about 3 of the rogue's cards with a single snip snap.
I'm not sure I'm happy about playing the Mummy here. You've got 2 Questings and Edwin in your deck. There's also the opportunity to give your opponent an easier brawl if they are low on removal, which we can see doesn't really matter because they're not.
At the same time, if you don't try to contest the board, you're really just going to lose.
Yeah, I get it.
Low percentage plays are all that the Czech Republic has right now. It's definitely unfortunate. I do agree with you that it feels like an overextension, but at a certain point, it's no longer an overextension. It's the only way to win.
No, I'm with that. I just think that you're not getting enough from playing it to, even in terms of going all in, to offset the downsides. But yeah, I also get it that you're kind of doomed here. I'd certainly have played it next turn, whatever. Just wanted one shot as a big thing coming out like an Edwin or a Questing. Pretty sure that Yara and Freddy know what they're doing though.
This is going to be the turn where Belgium starts locking up the game.
They didn't even have to use a brawl to do so.
Sudden and immediate board swing, even against a Divine Shield Tiamat, and they have options. That's the scary thing. It's not like they're out of stuff. Belgium has lots and lots of tools to fight for the next 8 turns, if not more. At some point, they're going to have an Azoth come down, summoning Snip Snaps and Kartut Defenders. Rogue's gonna have a couple turns where they're still alive, but still alive again just doesn't mean anything.
And again, those double sap in a normal situation, the Kartut thing is much harder. But when you're still on 27, which is soon to be 34, yeah, now we're sapping Hecklebots.
Yeah, that's not great. Specifically versus Kartut, sap is
all.
fantastic, but that's not how this game panned out.
Choose soon.
Are they in a spot where shadow stepping a minion just to protect their questing adventure is something that they have to do?
5 is 5 a magic number anywhere?
Probably not. You really need to find the evil miscreant. Hope to get some ethereal lackeys off that evil miscreant. Bounce them back, get a daring escape, get some more evil miscreants and ethereal lackeys.
Get the other questing.
Academic espionage into Dr. Boom.
That'll make me scribble out the 1-all that I've got written on my score sheet, because I think this one is donezo.
Up to no good? Me too.
And all they have to do now really is hit the other questing, and that is the end of the game. Togwaggle's gone, Edwin's gone, questing's on the board, ready to be removed. And nice though it is to try and do a lot of damage with lackeys. And I am going to keep an eye on it, because I got a hateful message from somebody after one of my road casts where I nearly missed a lethal. I do think that 32 is out of line and out of sight.
Well, you got one chance to win this game. That is an ethereal lackey getting a daring escape.
Up to no good? Me too.
That's not an ethereal lackey.
It was Gallon that sent me that message, by the way, everyone.
Yes, I did say. I wouldn't call it hateful. I'd call it accurate.
It was actually lovely and really helpful, to be fair.
Double time and double
People like to believe that casters all hate each other. And that's not true. We just all hate Raven.
Your flaws are your strength.
Warpath is going to lock this game out. It's been over for quite a while.
I do find
here.
it interesting. One thing that is instructive here is how they have continued to generate pressure, even though we know it's over. They're finding ways to say, okay, if all of your removal is the bottom 6 cards, we can hit you for 10. Which probably isn't enough, but it is instructive to work out how to do this. If the warrior was on a lower health total, this could be relevant. And if they didn't have 2 Kartuts, Dynamatic, and Warpath.
5 more minutes.
Something to keep in mind is that there might be something alive at the end of this turn. I doubt it, though. A Warpath Dynamatic could easily clear things up if they wanted to take it.
With only 2 cards, even the Questing Adventurer off the top isn't really a threat to Belgium here now. As long as they make sure they keep enough stuff to deal with. That is the 1 card left that... I mean, they're not going to be scared of it. They'll know they've won, but... The 1 card left they'll keep an eye on, I guess, if they're being tight. And it's good practice to stay focused, as long as it doesn't tire you out in these sort of games. Just so that you don't get any sloppiness in your deck.
I definitely agree with that. Just trying to keep your composure when you are in a won or lost game scenario for both players. When you won, you do not want to feel too comfortable, you know? For Belgium's side, I don't want them to feel like they've won the series just because they've won this singular game. But from the Czech Republic side, they shouldn't get too stressed out. They still have a large amount of games left to play in the series. It's only 1-1 in a best of 5. Bare minimum, they're going to have to play at least 2 more games, if not 3.
got to admit, I cannot see a world that would stress out Yarla and Faley. That would be a weird world. Yarla's impossible to stress out. I've tried for 3 years and just never managed it.
This would be a good time for a master plan.
On the flip side, Yarla's done a very good job at stressing out casters. The fact that this game is still going on.
I think, yeah, that's why I've tried to stress him out over the years as some
This
sort of
would be a good time
revenge.
for a master plan.
But I always want it known that it is not a criticism of what he does. It's just an observation of what he does.
As a competitive player, I firmly believe that he's right. As a caster for this exact game, maybe we can go
Make
to
it
game
end!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, the fact that means they're
Yeah,
still
in
gonna play
various
after.
hallways across the world last year, I glanced at Yarlo as I saw him go to events and said, ah, Priest, huh? Like, of course it's Priest, it's all he loves and slows down tournaments with.
I did manage to stress out Yarla once. There was one time I stressed him out.
Oh,
Yeah.
how did you manage that? Something you can reveal?
Yes. Well, his favorite card when Knight was around was Shadow Reaper Anduin.
Okay.
And every single time I saw him, I just mentioned to him the fact that Shadow Reaper Anduin is going to be rotating out of Standard. And he got very upset.
Horrible person.
Yeah. That's the one time I've managed to stress out Yarla.
It's just that Pavel once. Similar sort of conversation.
That's
I asked him what it's going to be like in a month's time to be ex-world champion when he was getting towards the end of his tenure. He did not appreciate that at all.
Two ethereal lackeys, daring escape. Alright, one ethereal lackey, daring escape. Clever disguise.
Needs to be very clever and very disguisey. Well, if you play the Toads and then get a Bloodlust from another effect and then get another Bloodlust,
You would still be about
then you probably
20
still
damage
lose.
off. Yeah.
It's still good.
Another one done. Down to 39.
Just 39 more of those.
I'm going to cast his play-by-play style in a minute. Does he go for the Nazoth or gain 7 armor? It's such a complicated, difficult decision that makes so much difference here. 46 health. Or would you like to get some Death Rattle minions back on the board? It's difficult to work out exactly what to do. Thank you, Yarla. I have finally managed to shouting loudly down the microphone. One game all.
Yeah, it seems like we've been saying it's one game all.
To be fair, that was quite interesting right up to the point where the snip snaps were played. But it meant that it was very difficult for the Czech Republic, especially with their bad burgled and discovered cards, to fight back into the game. And after that, it was because we can see the hands, we know it's over. But in fairness to the Czech Republic, they didn't know it was over. The brawls might be at the bottom of the deck and so on.
Yeah, to be quite fair, there is the 1 in a million, 1 in a billion% chance they actually managed to win that game. Like I'm saying, you could get a couple Discover Spell lackeys, some Ethereal lackeys, get a Daring Escape. They weren't under a lot of pressure, so maybe they could piece together some weird game plan. Again, it would never be a traditional game plan that wins from that point, but they definitely had.
I mean, they made a 7/15 minion. You know, it got dealt with, but if that hadn't got dealt with, that could have been different. For instance, ways that it could have gone differently. But I think we all need a little bit of a break after that one, so let's take 3 minutes and then come back to the conclusion of this group. Welcome back to the conclusion of Group G here at Hearthstone Global Games 2019. Czech Republic or Belgium. And again, as always, I'm just going to pass all responsibility on to Galen and ask him who's going to win from this point onwards.
I have no idea who's going to win, but I can tell you in this upcoming match, we will have a Warrior versus Priest, and if I have to put the edge on a team winning this, it's going to be the Warrior. We did see Game 1 Priest versus Warrior matchup where the Priest actually managed to clinch out a victory, but it was on the back of a very powerful opening hand of double Northshire Cleric, Injured Tol'Vir, Circle of Healing, and Unmet. That doesn't always happen.
Yeah, the Priest can definitely get it done, though. We've seen it done already once today. It's not one of those matchups that's completely and utterly obvious. So much can go right for the Priest and wrong for the Warrior. But at the moment, the Priest doesn't have... is somebody injured, and it doesn't have Ahmet, and they're two of the key cards you want against the Warrior.
Belgium is going for a pretty unique line in Combo Priest. Injured Tol'Vir and Psychopomp being kept together works really well.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, you would not be keeping a Psychopomp. It's one of the most expensive cards in the deck. Going for the cheap minions, Northshire Cleric, Light Warden, Beaming Sidekick is just more important. But specifically with an Injured Tol'Vir, it synergizes so well with that specific card.
Yeah, when you're learning what's to mulligan in decks, you can get a general feeling from sites that give stats, but you need to still think, when is this appropriate and when is it not? And this is a time that it is indeed appropriate to do something a bit different. Not a good hand for the Warrior, must be said. It can be good because you can deal with a minion with Shield Block, Shield Slam. Like something like an Ahmet will get taken down, but other than that, not developing how it wants. Ziliax is a big help though. And that's the thing with the Warrior hand, even when it's bad, it tends to tidy itself up pretty rapidly.
Yeah, they have quite a few before I would consider this a terrible hand. There's so much left that they can see from their deck, or they really are going to be in a pickle.
Pain speak to me.
Acolyte of Pain off the top is probably one of the best cards to contest in this specific instance. You really can't do much better.
I always get excited when I see the Pyromancer turn up. I don't get excited when I see Hearthstone turn up. We all know this, but you know. Is the option to just play their own Acolyte in response here? It's quite hard to get to, and next turn you have the Pyro. Obviously, if both sides get more cards, I think it favours the Warrior. If they get the same number of cards, but... maybe not. The Priest cost is cheaper. The Warrior can still only do one thing a turn.
I definitely like playing the Powered Shield here. There's a bit of an interesting debate on whether you should go for the Injured Tol'Vir or Acolyte of Pain. But just playing stats immediately makes a lot of sense to me, so I do like the Powered Shield. This also sets up pretty nicely for his Psychopomp.
Yeah, it gave him quite a lot of options, actually, going into next turn, too.
I would not be surprised to see an Unmet come down this turn.
Yeah. They will be a little bit scared about Shield Slam, but they've just seen one, so they can't really play around the second. It's kind of the rule of thumb that doesn't change much, especially in matches that aren't in your favour. Like, you can't play around two of things.
Not trading the Acolyte of Pain can come back to haunt the Belgium team here. I really think trading the Acolyte was important, not only for the Brawl potential, but look at this. They actually are going to get immediately punished for not making that small but very important trade.
Wow.
That extra 1 damage on the Ahmet leads to a full clear of this board.
And we saw, when we've seen Priest win before, you don't need to overly control the Warrior's health total. Not like you might do with a Rogue. We saw 40 damage done with 1 million last time. If you win, you tend to win good.
That's a good revive off of the Psychopomp, though. I do wonder if this means that they're just going to have one less board to contest against the Warriors' AoE threats.
Hey, I got you, friend.
Feels that way.
That 2 damage definitely was not worth it for this specific result.
Depending what's drawn next turn, a 9 health Acolyte of Pain could become pretty insane, though.
Yep, they get a start going
And yeah,
off.
I mean, I'm not going against you at all. I'm absolutely sure that that was just the wrong play. Not taking on the Acolyte. Not just agreeing with you because, for the sake of it, that just seemed unnecessary point of damage.
The main reason would be for playing around Brawl. It gives him a 50-50 of having the Ahmet live instead of a 33%er. But there's also the minor chances of, second Shield Slam and Restless Mummy. It's not often, but that could definitely happen. We saw it actually happen in this specific game.
Yeah, the Czech Republic in a bit of a spot here. None of these options are enticing.
It seems like both Super Collider or Cartoot Defender could come down this turn. I imagine they want to set up for a Brawl, which means just taking a half measure here, developing something that could have impact later in the game. Cartoot dying would mean that an Zoth off the top would be a lot stronger. Super Collider being developed means that they have it as just a tempo tool for the next turn. Based on that, I think that Super Collider is definitely the correct play. It's just something that they can accomplish to progress their game plan.
How greedy do you feel? Do you want to Acolyte, Pyro, coin, and try and draw another cheap spell? It doesn't do a lot if it goes wrong. Or do you just want to play the Acolyte and wait till next turn and then pretty much go off?
I think that since there is a huge Ahmet in play, they might be able to take it a bit slow. Something like extra arms plus beaming sidekick this turn could be a bit better.
I think you want to get the Acolyte down just so it's there for Plague of Wrath instances. If they want to kill it off, they've got to give you a card.
I'm not sure about that. I really think just taking a slow approach here is good, not even playing the Acolyte.
Okay. I agree with you. Chips away some of that damage as well.
Hey.
And also this way, I guess, means you can just win with lethal next turn with Acolyte shenanigans.
I definitely do not like the placement of the beaming sidekick. I would put it on the far right. Specifically for this reason, a Plague of Wrath off the top. If they had put it on the far right, one of these minions would live. So that small placement decision is actually going to be huge. It can be very impactful in this game. Suddenly they no longer have a 1-9 in play or a 1-7 in play. Could definitely mean the difference.
Yeah, now you. The other thing, if by playing it and making it big was fine with extra arms, but now they've got this awkward 2-1 mess to deal with before they can play any more minions.
It definitely seems
one of the funny downsides of Ahmet that doesn't get used very often against you.
I really don't think that Belgium has had a pretty poor hand this game. I think it's not the strongest. They didn't have the Northshire Clerics early on, but they definitely had stuff that they could do, and it seems like they're making these small little missteps throughout the game that are adding up to be these huge problems.
Yeah, I'd go with that.
The Czech Republic got pretty fortunate drawing a Plague of Wrath off the top, but again, Belgium kind of gave them that option. Along with the fact that they kind of denied themselves some extra value by not trading off the Acolyte early on. 2 minor decisions that are going to have a major impact on who's going to win this game.
Yeah, one of the things, I mean, I'm pleased about many things about Battlegrounds because people are loving it and it's a good game. But one of the things that I think is really stunning to see now is when a trade goes in the wrong order, how much of a difference it has on the rest of the unfolding of the battle. Now, in the main game, you choose which order and where your things attack. But the same applies. If one of them goes in the wrong place, it can have a massive impact on who wins.
One thing to consider about the placement that they had of the beaming sidekicks was the fact that if he had placed it on the far right, you could argue that he could guarantee a kill on the Ahmet. For example, they could start with Plague of Wrath and then trade in a beaming sidekick. But if that's the case, they'd be left with 2 very high health beaming sidekicks, which I think is a bit better than a single 2-1 Ahmet in play. Quite a bit better.
significantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Wasabi is going to give them some sort of second chance, but the warrior has had time to organise, get its hand together now. And this just looks suspicious. I just want to Ziliax this Acolyte out of sight. It's like the whole "don't look at us, we're not doing anything" sort of turn from Belgium. Which is always a sign that something nasty is being set up. It's actually not that nasty as it turns out, but I'll just get rid of the Acolyte. This looks too dodgy to me.
I definitely think that the Acolyte is a bit of a problem, but I imagine that they want to advance their game plan a bit quicker than just playing a Ziliax here.
Okay.
Harrison Jones plus Weapons Project this turn might be really important. Your Belgium here is just giving you a turn to draw cards. Along with that, maybe triple Snip Snap is just more stuff to play instead of a Ziliax. I think I'd rather have 3 Snip Snaps in play and my opponent have an extra card than just having a Ziliax in play. So I do like this from Yarla. Yes, you advance increase the game time by a bit, but you advance yours by way more.
Works out much better than I was saying, obviously. Yeah, and wide against the priest is so good. Especially when almost all of their buffs of health have gone. So you can just pick things off at your leisure.
Pretty fantastic Wansombi here. I'm not sure if it's going to be enough, though.
Yeah, and that's always the problem with Wansami, is when it's a good one, it's because you've had a bad game to that point. You kind of want them to be bad, usually, because that means you're probably already winning. Because you need these guys early. Dynamatic just looks so tempting here.
I wonder.
All the Snip are mechs. Dynamatic does a guaranteed 5 damage on the Wansombi. You can either attach his Snip Snap to one of these, or his Ziliax to one of these Snip Snaps, or you can just trade in a Snip Snap. Both of which look very appealing.
Yeah, just the way the mana works out.
What now?
Actually, it's quite hard because 2 armor might be quite valuable here in the worlds where you sometimes lose. There aren't many of those worlds left now.
Light the fuses!
I must choose.
What if they're thinking about armoring and playing weapons projects now? Even though it gives 1 attack to the priest, it doesn't really do anything. And it just spends your mana so well, because next turn you've got so much you want to do. That's what they went with.
A lot of cards that don't really do too much. They can draw 2 with a swing into the Dynamatic, Northshire Cleric heal. They can also draw 2 off of their Injured Blade Master, or their 2 Injured Blade Masters, but they'd have to commit quite a bit of mana to do that.
I mean, they know they've got to do stuff quickly.
That is
just
potentially
YOLO
the play,
Psycho
though,
Pump.
and hope to get a
No,
high priest Amet.
No panics yet.
There are 3 Amets in the pool right now.
Is someone injured?
It was Reborn. It was
Yep.
summoned off of the Psycho Pump, given Reborn. So that means that the first one died, and then 2 died from the Psycho Pump.
They decided to use that as the secondary option. Drawing a lot of cards is what Priest likes to do, so that's the route they've gone. And again, in a world where there's no cast, there's worlds where this board could stick. Just not many of them.
Yep, I think fighting for board as hard as possible here makes a lot of sense. I like the play from Maverick. There's really no other options that actually got you back ahead on board, and that's something that you desperately need as Priest against Warrior. a little bit of optimization here, trying to guarantee that their weapon swing can kill a Northshire Cleric if it survives.
Yeah. Yeah, always nice to see how that works out. With that in mind, yeah, you want the border. I was wondering whether it's worth trading in one of the snip snaps first.
Best minion lid for the Czech Republic. It's going to be incredibly difficult for Maverick to come back in this game. They're looking at maybe a Psychopomp Divine Spirit on a High Priest Amet, but even then, they're very unlikely to have it survive. There's a second Brawl in Jarla's hand. More often than not, that's going to deny a Psychopomp. And in the first place, they're going to have to get an Amet off of the Psychopomp. If that doesn't happen, the game plan's all but over.
Get Amet, play Light Wardens, hope there's no second Brawl. They're entitled not to have. There's 11 cards left, so a very good chance one of the Brawls was the bottom 11. Although not so much after you saw how the opponents played the last turn. Because everything else just feels too slow. You're actually getting beaten down now.
I must consider.
Like to play with fire?
Still fighting for board. Which again is understandable. We don't, as Belgium don't know for sure what the hand consists of the Czech Republic. They've got a good idea it won't be good for them. It's a 6-card warrior hand. But as you can use all this stuff to clear the board, why not? And then go for the Psychopomp play next turn, although it will be less likely to hit.
I see a dark
They got an Amet, but they did not get anything else off. And this can just be cleared with the Restless Mummy Ziliax. They don't even need to use a Brawl here.
But they got the card they were looking for. Can't you be happy for them?
That might be...
They won't be very happy when they see this, though.
I wonder.
Oh, there's just a bit more they could have done that turn. I don't even know. It's just like so confusing because it came down the last second. Were they supposed to Divine Spirit or Never Set Ritualist there? Maybe they just have to hope that Amet is going to survive.
Yeah, I think this is fine, honestly. There's 10 cards. That's a decent number left in the Warrior deck. Because now they're in a position where they can secure it next turn if it's not dealt with.
No tomb can hold me.
It'll depend exactly how many removals are left in the decks, but they've got better access to them placing those.
Czech Republic is setting up for a pretty excellent N'Zoth here. Once this card 2 dies, there will be 2 in the pool for N'Zoth alongside 3 Snip Snaps. That is just going to be a board and a single card.
Yeah, how great do you feel when your opponents just choose to leave up your Amet?
Either really good or really bad, because either they're not choosing to leave it up because it came down early and they can't answer it, and those are the games you win, or they're choosing to leave it up because it came down late, and those are the games you lose.
Yeah, I mean, you literally just saw them elected to just leave it there when they could have got rid of it otherwise. So you know you're in a bit of a mess.
One final push.
Well, these are some big things to worry about if you haven't got your hand. And again, Belgium can only do what they can do. Control the best case scenarios and hope.
On my perspective, I'm having a little bit of a graphical bug here.
Okay, so Czech Republic need to just be a little bit careful here. They don't want to just go for a brawl and lose it. That's the way they could lose the game. So they need to just consider all the ways they can lose. I'm just going to check if there is silence available for Belgium. There usually is. Sometimes deck lists go weird. There's one silence in the deck. I'm going to confess. I can't remember if it's been played or not, but I don't think it has.
I don't believe it has.
So they may have used it. Careful. Let me know.
They may have used
Can
it.
You see
for,
again?
They may have used it for a Wild Pyromancer Acolyte combo, but I am not entirely sure. Generally, I don't think it's going to come into play super. It's not going to be super impactful in this specific game, I don't think. A second Cartoot is going to come down, so no matter what, they will not be able to push through without killing at least one Cartoot.
Yeah, no, that's kind of where I was going with it being a decision. They will know if or not, so they know whether they need to play the Cartoot or not. Seems like the safest option. You've got N'Zoth in your hand for the next plan.
Instead of cards.
If it wasn't for this brawl, Belgium would start to be getting their hopes up just a tiny bit. I'm not sure how they ever get through all this stuff, but they've got two monstrous minions.
Definitely a little bit. The only problem is that there's going to be a N'Zoth coming down, summoning bare minimum 3 Cartoot defenders, if not 4, depending on how the RNG of the summons work.
Yeah, and even if you blast through all those without your minions dying, Czech Republic are going to draw the rest of their deck in that time.
I wonder.
No need to make these any bigger at the moment. I mean, you can heal things if you're going to keep the things alive. That makes sense. Oh, they take the opposite view. They take the view they're just going to win next turn, or they're just going to Zoth or they lose.
I think it makes quite a bit of sense. Yeah.
Life is an
Maybe. What is the last card in their deck? Could it possibly be a Inner Fire?
I think it is. I hadn't realised it's down to 1 actually. Now I can see it is. Now I check on the stream. It's the one corner of the screen I can't see.
There is 1 card remaining in the deck.
And again, Czech Republic will know what that card is, so they know whether they're doing something risky or not.
unity.
So the axe probably comes down here.
If he's in a fire, it absolutely wasn't risky.
I'm out of cards.
Yeah, they got 1 game plan, make it 28-28 and hope to connect face 2 times, but at the bare minimum, this Ziliax is going to absorb at least 2 hits. Jarla has N'Zoth the Corruptor in hand right now, and he's just going to be able to take this game.
Yeah, without the N'Zoth, even then, like I say, Ziliax takes 2 hits, and then the Warrior's going to draw a card draw in the meantime. So even if the N'Zoth wasn't in hand, they would probably survive.
They could probably just win with an Elysiana. Yeah.
There you go. 2-1 to the Czech Republic. They won the first match. 3-1, I believe.
Pretty
Looking
back
to get out of this group.
A pretty back and forth Warrior versus Priest game. There's potentially room for optimization on Belgian's side there. A couple interesting points. One in the early game, not deciding to kill an Acolyte Pain. I do think that with the play that they got punished with, it may have worked out the exact same. Remember that a Shield Slam, they knocked 2 armor off of the Warrior, so the Shield Slam dealt 3 instead of 5. So if they traded it into the Acolyte, it would have dealt 5 instead. But they definitely could have played around Brawl at that point, and they elected not to. The second one being just an interesting conditioning misstep, I would say, with the beaming sidekicks in the mid game. And it's interesting to think about whether that would have actually affected the outcome of the match.
Yeah, always so hard to just flip back into the exact board state and hand state in those positions, but something to look at for sure going forwards. Now it's Czech Republic with their rogue deck that I am personally a big fan of because it only plays 1 shark, but it has the double questing. It just makes sense to my brain.
I'm a huge fan of keeping Swashbuckler in this matchup, especially going first. There's so many very powerful tools that the Rogue has in this specific matchup, specifically Underbelly Fence and Vendetta, that just keeping your activators is quite powerful. I'd even consider keeping a Blink Fox on the play in this matchup, but very specifically, Swashbuckler is one of the best cards that you can have in your opener versus Priest.
Choose soon.
And you're okay to throw it out there when you miss all those activators as well? Well, you've got the Vendetta, so it's fine, but assume if you don't get the Vendetta, you just don't throw it out there.
No, I would still play it. There's always a chance that
Okay.
you get an underbelly fence off the top the following turn. It also contests the Light Warden pretty well.
Yep, it's just the Cleric, but sometimes things don't work the way you want them to, I guess.
It's very true.
But this is going quite well. And as you said, contesting that Light Warden has already got them into a decent spot, as the Rogue.
Czech Republic is in quite a good spot right now. The fact that they have a Vendetta lined up for next turn to activate their Evil Miscreant is really powerful. One thing to keep in mind, however, is that there is an Ahmet on Belgian side. That is going to be pretty tough to answer if they try to use their removal on something like an Intertolvier early on.
Seen a lot of Ahmets today. Hardly saw any drawn in the other games. Or today and yesterday, I mean.
I've got more left in me.
It looks like this is how it's going to play out.
Pretty interesting decision point right now, whether to sap or Vendetta here.
Sap uses up quite a lot of removal, but if they're going to coin out Ahmet, you can sap that, and actually you're sapping 4 mana instead of sapping 2.
I do like playing the
In fact, you
Vendetta.
can develop a
instead.
4/4 Edwin's quite nice.
The only reason to consider a sap instead of a Vendetta is if you're going for a Spirit of the Shark on turn 4. Vendetta on turn 5 lets you do a lot of additional lackeys on that turn. But overall, this is probably just a stronger tempo play, which is really what you want to be doing versus Priest.
Yeah, especially in decks that don't have much removal, just your minions are your removal. I stress that quite often, but it's very true. The fact you have the board just means you can kill things better.
Fantastic sap. I love the recognition from Belgium right now. Getting rid of the potential value trade from Edwin is going to be so important when you're a deck like Combo Priest. Even though Silence can often be used on even bigger minions, something like a Questing Adventurer or Spirit of the Shark. Really not much better you could be doing with that sap, or with that Silence.
Launch the Pharaoh Cat, get Restless Mummy, off you go.
It's actually quite a difficult turn. If you sap, your game plan gets delayed by so much.
Yeah. But so does the Beast, because it only has 4 mana next turn as well, but...
Well, then you're still stuck in the same position. If you sap, you're not really developing anything besides a Pharaoh Cat. And they can just replay the Ahmet. I guess you
This
open
works
yourself
too,
up.
though, in a world where they don't have 2 1-drops in their hand, which obviously they do. This would actually look quite a lot better than it looks right now.
It's definitely an interesting choice to be made, because if you get an Underbelly Fence, the Pharaoh Cat, Edwin, Dagger, and the Underbelly Fence actually cleanly deals with the Ahmet if they choose to replay it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a tough one.
Oh, up to no good. Me too.
With all this nonsense occurring, though, still plenty of time to deal with the board. Well, not plenty of time. There is still some time to deal with the board. Assuming that there's no Divine Spirit rips next turn or card draw. There's so many good draws for the Priest. Yeah, just putting as many numbers on the board as they possibly can.
It's getting pretty tense. That is a huge pickup. Northshire Cleric is a 1/8.
Yep.
None of these minions are going to be answered.
Potential lethal.
Least of
Not
which
quite.
is this Northshire Cleric. If the Northshire Cleric doesn't get answered, suddenly the Czech Republic is under real threat. One of the things that isn't that scary about the current Belgian board state is the fact that they aren't really doing anything with these high health minions. Northshire Cleric lets them do something, which is draw cards.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not going to be... I mean, they're going to have to board control a little bit with those minions, but they're not getting you anywhere. It's buying you time.
I've got more left in me.
Oh, the silliness.
As long as they deal with the Spirit of the Shark, I think. As long as they deal with the Spirit of the Shark, I'm pretty sure they're in a commanding lead this game. There's really nothing that can happen to them. Yeah, I like these trades. Get rid of the lackey so no Heistbear and Togwell can come down for some weird shenanigans. Get rid of the Spirit of the Shark to also deny weird shenanigans. There's no more Vanish.
Turn 5. Double fence late to the party by 1 or 2 turns. That could have been so much better for them.
They can sap the injured Tolvir, double underbelly fence, kill the Northshire Cleric. Maybe they can contest from there. I think it's vital that they deal with this Cleric as soon as possible. And the only way to do that is to use sap with double underbelly fence. The only way to do it, excuse me.
I mean, there's no way to do it. The only way to do it even half effectively, right? To get anywhere. And that does get you somewhere, I guess.
Choose soon. How much is this worth to you?
It's a bit interesting that they find the Amet scarier than the Northshire Cleric. I'm pretty sure Cleric is
both, really.
Yeah. But if you had to choose between the two, I imagine that Cleric is going to be the scarier one.
Yeah. Maybe they've got a decent read that the Cleric's only likely to draw 1 card and they're willing to take the chance that that 1 card doesn't help. It's all dangerous. They know how much trouble they're in.
There's no good options. You're choosing between the least bad at this point.
Yeah, you kill one turn, try to kill one the next turn, and then hope you haven't died in the meantime. And it's kind of... Belgium's getting a little bit frustrated here, to be fair, because they're not getting anywhere. They know they're probably going to do fine here, but they're not actually getting anywhere.
They're definitely getting somewhere. Look at the something.
Just cat into mass hysteria or something.
From nothing.
Ethereal Lackey. For a Blade Flurry, maybe they can pick up a Waggle Pick off the top?
Yeah, I think you've got to take Blade Flurry.
Blade Flurry
Shadow of Death, the card that won Mexico the game with Cross to the Moon last week. That was a glorious game. Pilfer into Mass Hysteria doesn't even do it, but Mass Dispel might. It's quite a few.
Remember, this is from another class. Astral Communion is nowhere close.
That's not the card you're looking for at all.
Choose soon. How much is this worth to you?
So if Belgium fail to pick up anything this turn, things might just start to get irritating for them.
They still have another chance.
This also has to be very close to lethal.
I imagine they're going to immediately start with the card draw here.
Just checking for lethals first.
I wonder.
And get 21.
No matter what, you can start with a heal on the Northshire Cleric, I believe.
Just do that now. That's even more than 21. That's actually 23.
I wonder.
Yeah, just heal it and find anything. Any card wins. 22. It's maxed out at 8. Anything. Not that. Anything else.
The end begins. I see a dark future.
Top tier in a fire, of course. This would have provided so much damage there. Anything that heals would have buffed the Light Warden enough to win the game.
I think this is still more than good enough. Really doubt that Czech Republic can find themselves back in this game. They're going to need some
Yeah, I think that's a fair prediction, young man.
They're going to need some obscene stuff to win, and Surrender to Madness, while thematic to what's going to happen this game, is not the card that they need.
The pleasure is mine.
Thank you, guys. And a dagger on the 8/8. Do they find lethal? Exact lethal coming out from the Czech Republic. We're going to game 5.
Nice work there. Trickiest decisions they had to make all that game. How to self-harm the way to victory. But now it's going to be everyone's favourite matchup, the Rogue versus the Token/Evolve Shaman. This is the version from Belgium that has one Novice Engineer, one Lightning Storm. We talked about all that stuff quite a lot yesterday. I think we've all agreed there's not much to choose between those 29th, 30th cards, just personal preference to a large degree.
Yeah, I've been playing this matchup quite a bit from the Rogue side on ladder recently, and it almost feels like you're bashing your head into a wall. Rogue is, I think, quite unfavored in this matchup. There are some tools that are really powerful. Edwin, for example, is insane in this matchup specifically. Vendetta, Underbelly Fence are both powerful, but if Shaman gets that early strong start with Spirit of the Frog, Desert Hare, Mogu Flesh Shaper Evolve, there's really not much the Rogue can do to contest it. They can try their best. Sometimes they can have a hand with double Vendetta and deal with parts of the board, but if the Shaman gets off to a strong start, the Rogue is in a lot of trouble.
And I think that's magnified with open deck lists. At least on ladder, there might be some question as to exact builds. Do I want to play into their Fan of Knives? All this sort of nonsense. With open deck lists, the Shaman doesn't even have those concerns to worry about.
Yeah, I do think that Rogue has been a little bit more streamlined than just that. Fan of Knives is no longer a card that's really being played. However, I would say that the start the Czech Republic has right now is one of the best you can hope for. They have a Pharaoh Cat, they have a Shadow Step, they have an Edwin Van Cleef, which means that the bare minimum, if they want to make a large Edwin on turn 4, they can make at least a 10-10. Now we're looking at a 14.
Yeah, that's the card they need to have a chance. Yeah, the Fan of Knives comment is actually, I've seen it on 2 or 3 occasions now, where, I think it's 3 occasions, where people say, no one plays Fan of Knives, and they immediately get fanned every time they say it. On ladder. It's just instantaneous.
I have yet to see it from my own personal experience.
Yeah,
but again,
it's just one of those rules of Hearthstone. Yeah, big deal with the Edwin because there's no sensible way of dealing with it. The Shaman is very good at making a lot of very big minions very early, but it's not very good at dealing with a lot of very big minions very early. Look at Faley's happy little face.
Yeah, you cannot
He's enjoying this.
You cannot hope for a better hand as the Rogue here. There definitely was an interesting thing where you could, as the Rogue, go Pharaoh Cat, Shadow Step on turn 1. You'd be able to go Pharaoh Cat for 0 mana, Shadow Step it, play it again, coin, and make a 10-10 Edwin. But instead they're electing to make, I believe, a 14-14 instead. I think that
the numbers are too big for me to understand.
I think it's a pretty reasonable play by them. They deny themselves about 10 damage to give +4/+4 stats on their Edwin.
Yeah, it's surviving for 2 turns is what they need, no matter how they decide to play it.
As soon as you see the first Shadow Step here...
You know, as you're from the Belgian point of view now, exactly what's happening here. You just don't know how terrible it's going to be.
Oh, and the second Shadow Step is going to come down, and then you realize, oh, it's very terrible.
Yeah. We thought we'd protected against backstab. Why can't you backstab your own cat? God, what are you doing, Bailey? Should at least have backstab in your hand.
Yeah. 14-14 in play.
Your go, Belgium.
You know what's really funny? Is that...
Not this.
There was one game that I played as a Rogue versus Shaman where I did this on turn 4 going into their turn 5, and I still lost. So
did they have a silence or did they just race you?
They had a Desert Hare in play that they evolved into a Toxmonger, and then they went Laffy into a Goblin Laffy and killed it. So, yeah, it's a fun matchup. A lot
That
can
makes
go
me
wrong.
happy.
A lot can go, or very right if you're from the shaman's perspective.
Very, very impossible now, though. Because of the hand composition, even if the Edwin is somehow dealt with, which would use up a board, there's the Leroy. There's just more and more board stuff coming down.
Play a bone race, ship it face. Protect your Edwin at all costs. Deal 15 damage to the opponent. Seems like a good Hearthstone turn.
Yeah, I mean, this is where you don't want to mess up, though. We were strongly critical of Turkey yesterday for messing up an end game that was very straightforward. So this is where you want to make sure you gain that extra 0.00%. And then they just do it, because it's probably there. Turns out if you take off half of the initial total of one turn and half of the initial total on the next turn, you win this one, friend. Belgium, why not to get a game of Hearthstone there, and the Czech Republic find a way once again to progress through the Hearthstone Global Games early stages.
We started the game with one of the longest rogue matchups, and then we finished it with one of the shortest rogue games of all time. So, pretty good ending to that. Exactly what I was saying in the lead up to that game, where Edwin is one of the most powerful cards that you could have in the matchup. It's one of the few things that Shaman can't reliably answer. And the fact that they had double Shadow Step alongside a one-mana minion was just a cherry on the top. And it just shows you how strong Edwin is in those certain specific hands.
Yeah, Edwin just never gets nerfed. It's always like 5th or 6th on the list. Every time the nerfs come around, he goes into hiding and then pops back out again. Just, I think he's going to be around forever. But Czech Republic going through with Romania from Group G, which leaves us one more group, 5 more matches to cover. That is going to be Group B, South Korea, Thailand, New Zealand, and defending champions China. And we will begin that after a quick break to set it all up.